Let me get rid of that here.
So, hello, Dr. Hernandez. How are you doing today?
How are you, Miss Gallardi?
Good to see you. How's everything down in Los Angeles?
Good. We're under control. How about over there in Illinois?
Everything's okay here, but more importantly, the Giants and the Dodgers are playing. The Dodgers are up already on the Giants, but we're going to still come back this season.
We're still going to be friends, okay?
Okay, yes, of course. All right, so let's basically share what we're going to do today, all right? So from the current slide, this is week 7, believe it or not, for about the USCIS reopenings. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go over some information about the Part 12, but we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to basically use some pictures, some picture vocabulary with this. We're going to do some definitions and a quiz. Now, why are we focusing so much on Part 12? It's because it has grown so much. And you were making comments about that just before we began.
Exactly. You know, Jennifer, when I became a citizenship teacher, the whole application was 2 sheets of paper, 4 pages total, cost $90. The fee was $90. But there wasn't Part 12. Wasn't like it is today. I don't even remember if there was a Part 12, to be honest. I don't know if a Part 12 would fit on 4 pages, but
it used to be Part 10, which was talking about moral, it used to be called attachment to the Constitution and moral ability. It's like, do you have the qualities to be a good moral U.S. citizen?
Well, and they would ask you about, have you been arrested? That would be a normal thing. But all these other things have been added, in the last 20 years, I think.
Yeah. So we're also going to talk about the update to the USCIS Citizenship Resource Center, USCIS.gov, and reopening.
The website that's changed, yeah.
Really changed a lot. So let's continue. If you want to follow along, you can download these resources, the N400-P12 quiz picks, or you can download the this is supposed to be the text, so I need to correct that a little bit later on. So we're now, right? Yeah, I'm gonna switch that a little bit later. So introduction to the N400 Part 12. So this one, have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen?
No, I haven't. I want you to notice, how the guy has his fingers crossed, indicating that he's not going to tell the truth. And that's the issue with claiming, that you say something that's not true. And the flag is up there because they're asking you about whether you ever claimed or said that you were a U.S. citizen when you weren't.
So is this a common gesture even in Mexico, crossing your fingers behind your back?
That's a good question.
It's because you're basically telling the lie, but you're hoping, but you put it behind your back because you hope that they don't find out that you're telling a lie. So I have always been curious to see if that has been a common or universal gesture.
That's a good question. It'll be interesting. Maybe some of your YouTubers will type in, contact you and see, and in the United States, that's what that sign means. That's what and you're right. We put it behind our back so the other person doesn't see, because then they know that we were not telling the truth. So
okay. So have you ever voted in the United States?
No, I haven't. And the issue is, if you're a permanent resident, you can't vote. So please do not. You can't register and you can't vote.
So voting is basically choosing a new leader or a law. So not only do you not vote in federal elections, you can't register to vote.
Exactly. And you will be in trouble. I had a student who had somehow registered. And of course, at that point, he needed to go to an attorney because, you can't do that. You can't do that. So the attorney needed to fix that before he could even go forward, with the application. So.
Now, some parts of Silicon Valley, they allow non-citizens to
That
vote.
would be a local. That'd be much more in a local election, I think.
Yeah,
but in
school
state
elections.
and federal, I'm sure you can't. Yeah.
Okay, vote. Okay, do you have any title of nobility in any foreign countries?
No, I wish, but no. And your picture is really good because it shows the crown, and that's the issue, right? In the United States, we are all created equal, and a person who has a title of nobility, it doesn't feel like they're equal to everybody else, that they're better than other people. But
I know some people have this attitude, but nobility is that they're a member of the king or queen's family.
That's right. King, prince, duke, Lady Di would not be able to become a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
She's passed now, but she would not have been able to become a citizen because she was a lady, which is an example of title of nobility. Exactly right.
Right. Okay. Have you ever been declared legally incompetent?
Right? No, I haven't. But legally incompetent, I think my definition of a legally incompetent is a person who is mentally ill, right? Who cannot make decisions for themselves.
So here I basically added that they can't think, they can't feel, they don't know what to do. They're constantly confused. So some people with Alzheimer's have this problem. Some people who are addicted to drugs can't make these kind of problems. If you're really sick, you can't make these good life decisions.
And the way I pose it to my students is I go back and I say, normally somebody, a family member or an attorney would have a paper saying that you are mentally incompetent and that they or someone else is making decisions for you. And
So there's been a legal judgment. You just don't say, hey, that person's crazy, I need to take care of them.
Oh, no. That's yes. So that's what they're, that's normally,
Okay.
And often that person will have been a patient in a mental hospital. In other words, they will have been internado. Sorry, I'm blank on English right now. But they will have been, taken as a patient inside a mental institution because they weren't able to function on their own. Yes.
Right. Have you ever, do you pay your taxes every year?
Right. The question on the application is framed the other way. I always say to my students, it means, have you ever forgotten? Have you not, for some reason, not done your taxes? And the answer is no. If this one has a solution, this is a much easier solution. If you find a student who hasn't done their taxes, I always say, you can do your taxes anytime. So go to the notary, do your taxes, and then you will have complied, and then you can say no, because you don't want to say yes, you want to say no.
So the question is, have you ever failed to file? Have you ever forgotten?
Not done your taxes, right? Not.
Okay. And some people don't pay taxes or because they don't make enough money.
Right.
So
some
did you
people
fail
don't
to
even
file?
need to make,
No.
Some people don't even need to make the report. In other words, a lot of people, like you said, don't earn enough, and they don't legally have to make. They don't have to fill out an income tax form. And this question is, did you ever, I always say it to my students, did you ever forget to do income tax that you had to do? So in other words, if you weren't legally bound, if the law didn't say that you had to do the income tax and you didn't do it, that's fine. There's not a problem there. It's where you had an income and you didn't report your income tax. You didn't file the report.
So this is a good question for you. What is this picture here?
It's isn't it the Capitol building?
Yeah, it's the Capitol money. Do you think the money is going in or is the money going out?
No, I think you're good. It's usually going out.
So it goes into Congress and then it goes out to our...
Right, because they're the spending organization, right? They assign where money is spent. So yeah, but that's a really good picture.
Yeah. Used to love Microsoft clip art. Okay, do you belong to any groups or organizations?
All right. Now, I always tell my students that it's no problem to say yes. For example, if you belong to a church, if you belong to the PTA, there's a lot of good things. I have students who are members of unions, for example, in their at their job. So any of those, you could say yes, and then you would write down the names of the organizations. So this is kind of different from the other questions. And the other questions, generally, you're hoping that the student is going to put no. But in this case, it's really up to the student. Do they want to list the organizations that they're members of, or, whatever they'd like to do,
Yeah, if you talk about, hey, I belong to the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, this shows that you're participating in American society.
And that's a positive for you, yes.
Yeah, so anyway, have you ever been a member of a communist party?
Okay, now this one, I'm hoping you can say no. Every person has to tell the truth. Remember, you're under oath to be telling the truth. But hopefully you're going to say no. But no, I'm not a member, and I've never been a member of the Communist Party.
So the Communist Party is the government of China, Vietnam, North Korea, and Cuba. It's not the people. It's the government.
4 countries in the world that have communist governments, right? So it's easy to remember the four. Yes.
Yeah, and the Soviet Union used to be a communist government, but we're talking
longer. Yeah.
About a political party. We're not talking about the people of China, Vietnam, North Korea, and Cuba. We're talking about the political party.
The governing party, really. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever been a terrorist?
No, I haven't. And hopefully you are going to respond that you haven't, because terrorists are not welcome here.
So a terrorist basically attacks or tries to create fear in governments and people. They're not using the vote to change the government. They're using terror or violence.
Yes.
To control people and governments.
Right.
Okay.
And can you go back?
Sure.
I always suggest that to my students that I ask them, well, can you think of a terrorist organization? Because that's an easy way to indicate to the officer that you understand the question and that you know what your answer is. So if you say Al-Qaeda, if you say ISIS,
9/11.
Exactly. But if you say the name of a terrorist organization, that's what's going to, they're going to, oh, okay, that's good. All right, you understand the question. Or I always tell my students, who was the most famous terrorist? Osama bin Laden. So you could give him as an example, right? So any of these would indicate that you understand the question.
Yeah,
that's what the question's about.
Let me make a suggestion. If I ask you, have you ever been a terrorist, and you say Al-Qaeda, and I would interpret that as you belong to Al-Qaeda? No, you need to say no.
Right. And then if the officer asks you to explain what is terrorist, then you would give this example. Okay. Exactly. The answer is no if you haven't been a member of a terrorist organization. If at that point, because I've had students, yes, who have then the officer stops at that moment and says, now explain to me what a terrorist is. And then they give an example, for example.
Okay, great.
As a response. Mm-hmm.
Okay, have you ever tried to hurt or kill a person on purpose?
Right, this is persecute.
No, that's I persecutes next week, okay?
Okay.
So this one is basically, have you ever knowingly hurt or planned to kill somebody on purpose? As part of a militia, or as part of a gang?
Okay, so you're over here you've moved over to a bunch of farther along on the questions. Okay. Yeah.
So have you done this?
The picture is good because you're looking at a violent way, right? Right. And you're trying to hurt. Clearly, they're trying to hurt each other.
Right. Now, the key word is on purpose. Like sometimes you're in a car accident, or sometimes there's been an accident and somebody accidentally dies. You did not plan this. This is something that you planned and then you actually did it. Okay. So this one, have you ever been a member of a military unit or rebel group?
Right. I want to stop you here because in a military unit, any young man who in his country had to do, who was conscripted, had to do military service, needs to put yes over here, right? A rebel group is just kind of an anti-government group, but a military unit is includes people who men at the age of 18 who had to do military service, right? So it includes everybody. And in my case, it's no. But you need, for example, if I were submitting an application and I had, in fact, done military service, I've had a number of students who have, they're older people now, and they did military service. I had a person who must have been 60. He was from Iran. And of course, when he was 18, he was just out of high school, and it was required, just like in this country a number of years ago, that you do military service. And so I said to him, you need to say yes, you are a member of the military unit, and you need to submit at the same time an explanation indicating that it was the law of your land that any young man at the age of 18 had to go and be in a military unit, for a year or two, or whatever the rule is in that particular country.
So the easiest way to think about this is when you're with a military unit, you're fighting with the government.
That's good. That's good.
If you're doing a rebel group, you're fighting against the government.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yes, that's
so
good.
let me clear that. And
that's excellent. That's a good.
Yeah. Let's continue.
But in either case, you need to tell the truth about your situation. So,
Absolutely.
For example, I had this gentleman who mostly had said no on his Part 12, but when he got here to this question, he had to say yes because he had, in fact, completed and complied with military service. It was the law of his land.
Well, many of our Vietnamese students fought for Vietnam, both for the North and the South. This shows that you are patriotic. If you serve your government in the military, you will basically bring that same sense of patriotism to the United States, whether or not your friends, who you were fighting for, is friends with the American government. So the people who were in North Vietnam, they thought that they were honestly helping their country to fight against the United States. So I know a lot of people will disagree with that, but still, please be proud of your military service. Okay, let's continue on. Have you ever worked in a prison?
No.
No.
And, I don't think that's a problem, except if it were, I don't know. What is your sense, Jennifer?
So the problem is that some people were prison guards. That's fine. You can explain that, okay? The key here is, are you basically supporting people's civil rights? So sometimes in the military, you basically, even though you're in the military and you have a gun, you also obey the laws of the military. Here, if you work as a prison guard, you are also you're obeying the laws of the government, and you're basically supporting people's human rights. Okay, everybody in prison. Some people in prison, they're there because they're trying to fight for freedom. But some people are simply criminals. We want those people to be away from the society. Yeah. So here the key is, did you support people's civil rights? Did you follow the law? If you can answer yes, you simply say, yeah, I was a prison guard. Okay. Did you follow the law? Yes, I followed the law. No problem. Okay. So the problem is, if you were forcing people, or if you were working somebody to death, say for instance a Nazi concentration camp.
Yes, or a Nazi concentration. Yes,
that's a problem. And there's labor camps all over the world even now. Okay, let us continue. Have you ever been a member of a gang?
No. But I have a question. Is that how the question is framed? Are you a member of a gang?
It's, have you ever been a member have you ever been a group that uses weapons?
Okay, that's how I know that question. Yeah.
So
gang. I guess I would be careful about gang, because people run in gangs sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's not the question. The question is whether, it's going back to those rebel groups that you had put up before that are anti-government. And as you see in the picture, have weapons, right?
But look at these nice boys. Not nice boys. These are criminals, okay? So they want to know, have you ever been a part of a criminal organization here?
Exactly.
Have you ever used weapons to force people to do things that they don't want to do?
And they're not asking you just for the United States. They're asking about where you lived before you came to the United States.
Right.
These questions are about in your lifetime.
Yeah. Have you ever sold or given people weapons?
Weapons, right? No. And if they ask you what are weapons, you have examples right here. Gun is the easiest.
Gun, bomb,
That's a rifle.
Some people know how to make bombs. Some people know how to take bombs apart. So they're going to ask you if you've had any weapons training.
Exactly, yes.
Have you ever forced someone to be a child soldier?
These are all things that you wouldn't want to do. Hopefully you didn't do this in your lifetime, right?
Okay, so this is basically forcing a child under 15 to basically work.
Part of a rebel group or a vigilante group.
Yeah,
no?
Usually a rebel group. Okay. Have you ever been arrested or been in jail?
Okay, here on all of the questions, you have to tell the truth, right? That's why you get your fingerprints taken. And the officer knows, actually, the officer, when you go in and have your interview, the officer is going to know what the answer to this question is. Because if you've been arrested, the officer will have received the evidence or the report from the fingerprints. Right?
Yeah, and I'm going to add something here. Even though we're going to talk about this vocabulary a little bit later or in the next if you had your record expunged, that means you've committed the crime, but they erase the record that you committed the crime. That's fine for your employer, but here with the USCIS, you have to talk about, do you have that criminal record, okay?
Because immigration is going to know, because you can have it expunged, but immigration, USCIS is going to know. When they receive the report of the fingerprints, all issues or all cases that anytime you had anything to do with your fingerprints, they're going to know. They won't be erased.
Okay. So anyway, let me clear that. And have you been in jail? Okay.
And they'll also know the answer to that. So definitely tell the truth. Don't get caught on any of these here.
Have you ever committed? It's easiest. Have you ever committed any crimes that you were not caught for?
Right.
Have you?
No, but hopefully you're an upstanding citizen and haven't had any problems with the law, with the police.
So the question is, what is a crime? What's a good definition for crime?
When you do something against the law.
Okay.
It's not legal. How's that? Yeah. Something that's not legal.
Another one is break the law. Okay. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been a habitual drunkard?
You know, I had an interesting case. I had a person who had definitely had a problem. They were older. Maybe they were 50. I can't remember. It was one of my early cases, very early when I was doing beginning as a citizenship teacher. Mm-hmm. And they had three. They had been arrested and convicted on 3 occasions, but this happened like 20 years before, right? And so we wrote, 2 or 3 times you're getting close to having a problem, right? But we were able to say, this happened 20 years ago. You can see his record is perfectly clean and that he doesn't have this problem.
Well, the whole issue is that if you're a habitual drunkard, you have DUIs, maybe you went to some sort of recovery.
It's more than 2. But he had more than 2, because I have lots of students who don't consider themselves habitual drunkards and may have committed DUIs twice. But they're looking for people who have during their life just continued on and on and on.
Well, why does the government want to know this? Because somebody who's drunk continuously, they cannot fulfill the responsibilities of citizenship.
Exactly.
They're not going to make good decisions if they go vote. They're going to have health problems, all sorts of things. So they really want to know about this. Okay. Have you ever sold or smuggled illegal drugs or narcotics?
No. And then the issue is, can you name? Can you give an example of an illegal drug?
Mhm.
And what would you say, Jennifer?
Heroin or cocaine?
Yeah.
That's some people say meth. Some people say
Yeah,
coke.
any of those work, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Have you ever gambled illegally?
Right. Most people, when they gamble, they're going to Las Vegas or they're going to Pachanga, right? One of the things that happens, at least in the Latino community sometimes, is that people get in the backyard and they do cockfighting, right? And they're betting.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is not legal. You cannot, if you were caught, you would not be able to think about, you guys need to think about it, because if you were caught and prosecuted, you would have committed this crime, and you would not be eligible for citizenship. Isn't that right, Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, an easy way to define this is when you gamble, you pay taxes. Illegal gambling, you gamble, but you don't pay taxes. So if you go to a cockfight, is there somebody who's checking you out and saying you have to pay your taxes before you leave this cockfight? That has never happened to any cockfights that I know about, and I don't want to talk about how I know about them. But anyway, okay, let's continue on. This question is about not did you come into the United States illegally. They want to know if you help someone enter the United States illegally. And
I really like your picture.
Hey, I made that one.
But where you see it is that the person who would not be able to become a citizen would be the truck driver, because he or she was driving all of these people, and you can see crossing the border. So what I really like about your picture is that the person who would be prosecuted, the person who would not be able to be a citizen, would be the driver.
Right.
These other people are innocent, but the driver, that's what the question is about. And obviously the driver knew, right? The driver would know what was in his or her semi over there. And
these people would be deported. This guy would go to jail for a long time because he's basically doing human trafficking. And they
would not be able to become citizens. This is now because they're crimes that you can pay for. In other words, go to jail, and people are going to forgive you. And this crime is not one. There are certain crimes on the application that if you commit that crime and you are convicted of that crime, there isn't any solution. You won't be able to make the application for citizenship because you're going to be denied.
So no, coyotes need not apply. Now, we usually associate entering the United States illegally across the Mexican border. However, this happens across every border. One of the saddest cases was in England, where a lot of Vietnamese basically suffocated in a refrigerator
in a truck just like this. Yeah,
exactly.
The guy just left it. Oh, it was awful. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those people were basically making that crossing to help out their families, but it was a terrible, terrible price to pay.
Yeah.
So let's get green card marriage. I love you and I love your money. So why is green card marriage? Why is this illegal?
But that's not what it says on the application. The application is, did you commit fraud? In other words, did you do, have you committed fraud with respect
did you marry someone to obtain an immigration benefit? Okay.
Right, but that's not how it is on the application. That's
very similar to what it says. Did you marry someone to obtain an immigration benefit? I believe that's very similar to the wording. So the thing is why is this illegal? If you marry an American citizen, then you can start your petition to become a legal permanent resident. However, this is basically obtaining obtaining a benefit illegally. Are you really planning to be married to this person, to stay with this person, to be engaged in a partnership with this person? Absolutely not. You're buying and selling yourself.
And throughout the process, there would be review with respect to, the officer would review to see if they really think that you are married. And so they're going to, when you're getting your green card, you have to present certain documents or proof that you're really married. And if you are going to become a citizen after 3 years, right, then they're also going to check again that you're really married to that person, because you're getting a special benefit to be able to apply for citizenship after 3 years rather than waiting 5. So
you're going to usually ask this person, they're going to usually ask the people whose citizenship is based on marriage to an American citizen. So I had one student, when she went to her citizenship interview, they asked about her husband's previous marriages. She had no idea that he had been married 3 times before that.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my.
She had no idea. She says, but I have a baby with him. But they suspected that she had married him
They must have
illegally.
known. No, they must have known. He may have tried to
yeah.
other wives before. But, yeah.
He was basically a perpetrator of a crime, but she was the victim. Even though she was staying with him, she had a baby with him, she was doing everything she needed to do, and she was honestly felt that she was engaged in a difficult, but it was still a true marriage for her. For him, it was not. So I don't know whatever happened to him.
You know, it always depends on your officer, because I had a couple, and they were definitely married. They didn't have any children. They were trying to have children, and what saved her, she had no idea. They had come the day before from the doctor. You know, how do you call the doctors that help you? What is it called?
Physical therapy?
Yes.
Oh, fertility doctor.
Yeah. And so they had consulted several times because they wanted to have children, and just, pregnancy hadn't followed. Well, to tell you, they had just returned the day before. And so the wife had stuck the receipt. She didn't think about it. She had just stuck it in her purse. And for some reason, the officer wasn't convinced that they really were a married couple. And my student came back to class and explained this, and she said, I took out the receipt, and I said, we are going to the doctor because we want to have children. And of course, the officer wanted to see some proof, and he took it out. And then after that, there was no question. But I knew, they'd been students of mine, so I knew it was a bona fide marriage. But an officer doesn't know. They just know that person. They meet that person for the 10 or 15 minutes of the interview. And,
there's 2 things that I have to say about that. A lot of times students who are going, or applicants who are going in, if they can bring evidence that they have credit cards together or checking account, nothing says I love you than mixing your money together. Okay. So utility bills, you have to have both names on there. But this also points to one of the complaints that the Migration Policy Institute talked about, is that in during some immigration or naturalization cases, they're almost relitigating the green card interview. They were past the green card interview. Why are you asking me these questions? But anyway, But
regardless, if you're getting a benefit, if you're going to be becoming a citizen after only waiting 3 years when everybody else has to wait 5, then they really need to make sure it's a bona fide marriage, right? Because you're getting this benefit. That's all.
Okay. So now, have you ever lied to get public benefits? Right. And what are public benefits?
Well, you have a right as a permanent resident, right? You can get welfare. You can get things that are unemployment. That's not a public benefit. But welfare would be, SSI would it not?
Yes.
Give me examples.
Okay, yeah. SSI, food stamps. They used to call it WIC, with women and infants.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Food.
What about
food services?
Medi-Cal? Medi-Cal would be also a public benefit.
Rent. Sometimes people live in Section 8 housing. Some people get special health care. So those kind of things, if you talk about help with food, help with rent, help with health care, that would basically address the whole thing about public benefits.
All right, but we need to make sure people who have green cards have a right to public
Absolutely.
benefits. The question is not, did you receive public benefits? The question is, did you lie? Right? Did you lie to get public benefits? So that's the question.
They're really taking a look at this question too, because some people apply for fee reduction or fee waivers. And so the people who apply for that stuff, if you're receiving public benefits, some of those public benefits now are associated with certain income that you're receiving. So it's gotten very, very complicated. Again, if you're receiving public benefits, please review with some legal service people how to answer this question and what legal services you actually receive. Okay, have you ever been deported?
Right. Well, normally USCIS knows because they have a whole, they have your file, but you need to answer the question correctly. I have to tell you, I had a student who he said, no, I haven't been deported. The officer asked him again. And I tell my students, the minute that the officer repeats the question, think. Okay, and in this case, 25 years ago, before he had a green card, right? He had been deported, right? And he just didn't remember.
Did he self-deport? Did he self-deport? Like he got to the border and they said...
No. They knew. Right. And the issue is not that you were deported. You need to be truthful. So they already know. If they gave you a green card, it's because they already knew that you had been deported and they had decided that you were going to be accepted as a permanent resident. So it's very, very important to know your history and to repeat it exactly as immigration has it. So in his case, he had a nice officer. The officer turned around and said, is this you? And he said, oh, yes, that's me. And he immediately said, yes, this happened, a million years ago. So he immediately said, yes, that's me. And yes, that happened to me. Right. So the question is not you'll be thrown out if you were deported, because if you were deported, immigration did the deporting. And so they would know. The important thing is to repeat, to tell the truth.
Right. Yeah. They're not trying to trick you.
Right.
They're not trying to trip you up.
History. Yes.
They want to know the truth, and they want to make sure that you understand what you're agreeing to, or what you're denying. Okay. Have you ever served in the armed forces?
Right. No, I haven't. And most of my students, I have to be honest, I haven't had a student who has served in the armed forces. Have you?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you why. A lot of people are now immigrating from Iraq. No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Iraq,
right.
Afghanistan.
And that's how they would have gotten here.
Yeah, and they would have been translators, okay? Mm-hmm. Some of them are really delayed in their cases, and we really want them to come because they have served with due honor. So
yes, no question.
Now, do you support the Constitution?
All right, this is the yes series of questions. Hopefully you're going to say yes, it's up to you. But yes, I support the Constitution.
And what is the Constitution?
Right? It is what do we call it?
Supreme
law of the land. Sorry about that. Totally momentary.
Not supreme. Okay. Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to the United States?
Right. Yes, I am. And they might ask you both the word oath, or they might ask you the word allegiance. So I always say oath is a promise that you make. And allegiance is that you're going to be loyal to the United States.
Okay, good. Are you willing to bear arms in the United States Armed Forces?
I always go like this, show my students. I had a student, I don't know if I told you this story. I always say, are you willing to defend the United States with a gun? That's how I...
And some women get really tripped up on this. And I'll say, if somebody tried to take your baby, would you defend your baby? And she goes, of course I would. So I go, the same thing. When you're protecting your child, you're protecting your family, your community, and the United States. So if you're willing to do that, you can say yes to this one. Okay?
Right, but there are people who legally can say no. Right? There's certain religions that it's not, if you are a member of this religion, it's part of the ideology or the thinking of the religion that you're not able to bear arms. Quakers, for example. So you could be a member. In this case, I would prepare my student. I would say, when we prepared the application, I could see that they were going to say no. And I would say to them, you need to get a letter from your minister that you're going to be taking with you to the interview, because they need to see that, A, you've been a member of this church for a while and that you're in good standing. The minister needs to recognize you. Or
Okay.
You need to prove.
So there's other things like this might also is related to selective service. So some people cannot register for selective service because of their religious community. So there's some problems here, but the thing is that you have to be honest about this. One of the big communities that we have in Milpitas is the Jain community, Jain, and they're absolutely non-violent people from India. We have the Jehovah Witness. We have certain
Yes.
Buddhist communities. So they cannot bear arms because of religious obligations. Are you willing to be a non-combatant in the United States Armed Forces?
Right. And I always say non-combatant could be cooking for the people, cleaning their bedsides, doing the washing, all of these, helping the doctor, right? If you're a nurse. So there are a lot of things where they're asking you, will you please help the United States? If you don't have to carry a gun, but as a non-combatant.
I had a series of students who were Sikhs from India,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, we drive everywhere, doesn't matter, war, anything, we'll get you there. So I'm like, okay, you guys are ready. Okay, are you willing to perform in a national emergency?
And I always say to my students, if the president said to you that he needed you to help with some project, would you help? And hopefully you're going to say yes.
Yeah, I think if my mayor or if the mayor would ask, but this one is now it's related to COVID. You can basically make a case. This is related to COVID-19. Are you willing to wear masks? Are you willing to be tested? Are you willing to help people, organize people for polling places? All sorts of things like that. So I think the whole concept of national emergency is broadening. Okay.
Well, and very pertinent to the moment that we're living in. Yes,
yeah.
Exactly right. Mm-hmm.
And in some places, there's real floods and storms. Our students
the
in
hurricanes
Texas,
that are coming. Yeah, Texas and Hawaii. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And do you promise that everything you said was the truth?
Right. At the end, very like the second to last page or so, you're going to be signing your name, but you're going to be signing that you're telling the whole truth, that you're not committing perjury. And that is probably one of the most important things that, I have students who might have made some, have committed some crimes, but more serious would be if you lied about it. And so they're expecting you to tell on all of the 20 pages of our application to be telling the truth, be honest.
Okay, Patricia, I just looked over at the TV. It's now San Francisco versus Los Angeles, and San Francisco is ahead 2-1. Okay,
sure,
now let's go to the quiz. Okay, go ahead with number 1.
Oh, I'll be happy to read it.
Yeah.
Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen?
No.
No, right? But the question is, what is claimed? And you have 2 choices. Yeah?
A non-citizen lies and says, I am an American citizen. Okay? So now let me ask you number 2. Have you ever voted in any U.S. elections?
Yes, I voted. But I'm a citizen.
Okay.
Sorry.
So what is vote?
Right? And we have 2 choices here. And it's letter B. A citizen chooses, you got a typo there. Oh. Citizen chooses a new leader or law.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Okay.
Don't worry.
Good. Go ahead with the number 3.
Yeah. Jennifer, do you have any title of nobility in a foreign country?
No.
And what is nobility?
It's a member of the family of a king or queen.
Excellent.
Dr. Hernandez, have you ever been declared legally incompetent?
No, not yet.
What is legally incompetent?
Legally incompetent is letter A. A legal guardian makes decisions for me.
Okay, good.
because I'm not able to do so. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Gallardi, do you pay taxes every year?
Yes.
And just make sure that you underscore that that's not how the question is formed. It's a no
Right.
question on the application.
Right.
Right. And what is income tax?
Income tax is money. I pay money to the government based on what I earn.
Exactly.
Not what do I
Very good.
buy, but what, yeah.
Exactly.
Do you belong to any groups or organizations?
No.
What is a group or organization?
And the answer is letter A. Members meet together to do something.
Okay. Good. Go ahead with number 7.
All right. Ms. Gallardi, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
No.
And what is communism?
It is a government party with a state-planned economy. So, for example, China,
exactly, make it
Vietnam, North Korea, or Cuba. Okay, number 8. Have you ever been a terrorist?
No.
What is terrorism?
Letter A. A terrorist uses violence. Oh, sorry. Yes, uses violence to control governments. Interesting, your wording there. A terrorist uses violence to control, I would say, to resist or harm or destroy governments, something like that.
Sure. Okay, I'll write another quiz.
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, okay, number 9.
You ready?
Yeah.
Have you ever badly hurt or killed a person on purpose?
No.
And what is on purpose?
I planned to hurt a person and then I did it. Number 10, have you ever participated in a rebel group, militia, or army?
No.
What is a rebel group?
It's letter B. A rebel group fights against, we had talked about this in our talk today, a rebel group fights against the official government.
Okay, very good. Please.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Gallardi, have you ever been arrested or committed a crime?
No.
And what is a crime?
To break the law, for example, to steal or sell drugs.
Excellent. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hernandez, have you ever been a habitual drunkard?
No.
What is a habitual drunkard?
A person who drinks alcohol daily and gets sick.
So the key word is getting sick, not the drinking.
And letter A, you just this is something that our own students, right? A person who drinking is not a problem. You could be drinking water. You could be drinking milk. The issue is it's drinking alcohol.
And getting sick. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the addiction part that their answer. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, number 13.
All right. Have you ever sold or smuggled illegal drugs?
No.
And what are illegal drugs?
Drugs against the law, such as heroin or cocaine.
Good. And I think the word that they might use in that case would be narcotics. I mean, they might not ask you illegal drugs, but they might say, explain to me the word narcotics. And that's where you would say heroin or cocaine. Yeah.
14. Have you ever gambled illegally?
No.
What is illegal gambling?
Gambling, but not paying taxes when you win.
Okay.
And gambling, for me, I always say gambling in a place where it's not legal. Like we can't gamble in Los Angeles. We can gamble in Las Vegas. There are certain places where you can. Not every place can you gamble.
Yeah. Okay, number 15.
Have you ever lied to the U.S. government to get public benefits?
The U.S. government. Oh, to get the public. Okay. No.
And what are public benefits?
For example, health care, food assistance, and low-cost rent.
Yeah.
Number 16, have you ever been deported?
No.
What is deported?
It's letter A, to be arrested and sent back to your country.
Oh, okay.
Nice. That's a good definition. I really like that. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Right, here are the yes questions. Do you support the Constitution and the form of government of the United States?
Absolutely, yes.
And what is the Constitution?
The supreme law of the land.
There you go.
Number 18, if the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States?
Yes.
What is bear arms?
Letter B, to use a weapon to protect the country. Excellent.
Okay, and number 19.
Ready?
Yes.
If the law requires it, are you willing to do non-combatant work or service for the U.S. Armed Forces?
Yes.
And what is non-combatant?
To work in the Army without using weapons.
Right. There's a lot of people who work in there who don't carry the weapons. Yeah.
Are you willing to help the government during a national emergency?
Yes.
What is a national emergency?
Example, earthquake, fire, flood, tornado. We got a lot of examples of national emergencies.
Yeah, especially. So these are the handouts that you can download. Again, we have the interview intro. That's the script that has all those questions. We have the picture vocabulary where you can take notes, and we have the quiz
The
itself.
quiz that we just did, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we have to talk about the
big announcement here. Yes.
So this really took me by surprise. Wednesday, USCIS announced that they had remodeled the USCIS.gov. So it's like, okay, that looks pretty interesting. So I made. So let's take a look at the old one. So at the old one, we have the banner on top. We have information about filing online. We have this information about checking case statuses, all the quick things that people need to do. And then they organize things into columns. Okay, that's the old USCIS.gov. So this looks great if you have a computer, but most people don't access things on the computer. Most people access online. So now when they basically uploaded, when they did it, they tried to put everything in a single column. And why did they do that? It's easier for cell phones to basically read this, and it's also easier to comply with HIPAA laws. So what are HIPAA laws? Those are laws for people with disabilities. They need access to certain information and to resources. So if you put things in a single column, you basically make things easier for people to read them. However, some of the cues that we use for visually looking at things, we're losing that. So I made a video about accessing the new USCIS.gov, and basically I did it on my cell phone so people can see things more clearly. So you can take a look at that video at new USCIS.gov. And frankly, I did not dig in that deeply because I just wanted to tell people with it. However, now I'm starting to find some problems, okay? So one of the problems is the U.S. Citizenship Resource Center, and anybody who is a teacher or a student lives and dies by this resource. So here you have something very clearly marked with the learners, the educators who are the teachers, and the organization. So if I'm looking for a lesson plan, boom, there's the lesson plans that I can simply download and distribute to my students. However, when they basically organize this, two things happen. Number one, they put things in a single column. So you don't see this visual content. You see that visual content at the very bottom of the screen. Okay, so you're basically seeing this visual content here. Okay, you're not seeing this. You're seeing that on the website if you're looking at a computer. But if you're on a cell phone, you're only going to see this. And if you keep on scrolling, you're going to look at the stuff down here.
Okay, Jennifer,
yes.
Can I stop you a minute?
Yes.
The one thing is that if you look at the first word in each of the bold immigrants, that would be the student. Educators would be the teachers and organizations. So maybe we could have people grab onto that.
Okay.
The first word, it's easier when you see a picture, but we don't have a picture. So
immigrants,
educators,
and
that would be the same equivalence of what? It's just would have been nicer to have a picture, but anyway.
Okay, so I was so thank you for pointing that out. Mm-hmm. But the key thing is because they went through the reorganization teachers have to update the links. So if as a teacher, I basically had a bunch of links from my blog to USCIS.gov lesson plans because I wanted my students to have access to that information. All those links are no longer valid because of this, and because they've streamlined the website practice. And that's good, but teachers really have to know about that, and they have to go back and review their blogs and update that stuff. So please, please, please do that, okay? So I wanted to do a very super quick demonstration about taking a look at that. So I'm going to go online. We're going to do a quick share. Oh, sorry. Again, new share. Here we go. USCIS.gov. Here we are at the website. We're scrolling down, managing your case, all sorts of things.
It's really different, eh?
Yeah, really different.
Yeah.
It looks really clean. Here's the Citizenship
Go back
Resource
so
Center.
that they can, wait, can you go back?
Yeah.
Only because, so that they can see, they need to see. The Resource Center has that picture of the flag. And so maybe that'll help people.
That's a way to think about it. Yeah, that's a good way to see that. Okay, so here we are taking a look at this, but now I'm sitting there and thinking, well, I can't click the educator thing. Well, what do? I have to go here do I go to resources or do I go to study aids? If I go to study aids, then here we have multilingual resources. Those are for the students. So let me go here for the teachers, and hopefully I can find something. Register for teacher training. There's some upcoming webinars that basically talk about some of the training that are coming up. Please take a look at that at another time. But here's the educational products. And when you take a look at the educational products, what's going to come up first? Yeah.
You see the application, right?
Yeah. You're going to see the N400.
Vocabulary.
Yeah, the vocabulary. And this is basically the way it's showing up. It's showing up in alphabetical order. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want things in alphabetical order. I want things done according to topics. So I have to beg you guys to spend some real time taking a look at this, okay?
To get conversant with it, yeah.
Yeah, really take a look at this. Let me go back to my new share. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Do you see the PowerPoint? Yeah? No. Wait a minute. You don't see the PowerPoint.
No, we're still on the website.
New share. And I have to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So there's one other thing that I need to basically point out to you. The other thing that's really different is this one here. Escape. I didn't want that one. I want this one. Okay, this one here.
All right. Now, the heading was application support centers, or how did you access this?
This one was really difficult for me to find. So application support centers are the places that they do the fingerprinting. So in California, we have a lot of application support centers. They don't do the interviews there. They basically do InfoPass appointment. Yeah, fingerprints, InfoPass, pictures, all that
for
kind
us,
of stuff.
All we do is pictures. No, InfoPass is done it for us at the office at the USCIS at the federal building. But in the ASCs, they just do the fingerprinting and they take your picture too.
Okay, well, I want you to notice, like, for instance, San Jose is not on this list, but San Jose is actually a field office, not simply an application support center. Most of these places will be open July 27th. Now, there's some places that are going to be updated. They're going to be open August the 4th, and they're only going to be open 1 or 2 weeks per month. So for instance, places that are farther away, for instance, up in Duluth or up in some of our territories. They're only going to be accessed a little bit. So let me stop this share, and I want to show you how I access that information.
Good, thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, people need to know.
So I think it's here. Okay, so I'm going to simply go back to USCIS. What I did is I said USCIS response to the coronavirus, and I wanted to look at
There you go. Okay.
field appointment and application centers. So when we take a look at application centers, again, they just have a notice here. I had to click this one, USCIS office closings, and that's where they start talking about, again, you don't see that information available. So you're thinking like, well, okay, how do I find that? So it was difficult for me to basically find that information. So again, let me look at field offices. Is the field offices there? I just found it really difficult to find that information, and again, I'm going to have to go back. So I think we're going to have to basically try a little bit harder and see how or practice a little bit more about, contact center, no, that's not it. I'm not seeing where I found that information. Application center, support center. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, that's the user's fault. That's not the person's fault. So again, Maine, again, these are all.
And here, notice Duluth. Yeah, that's the example. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah.
One time a week. Can you imagine?
Yeah, Duluth is very close to the Canadian border.
Yeah, but one time a month it says, right? Go back did it say what? Go back.
Yeah, once a month.
So imagine they're going to give you an appointment, but you better go.
You're gonna basically in Minnesota or North Dakota, you're going to have to go to Minneapolis to do your business, and that's at least a good 6-hour drive. Ooh. Let's see. Northern Mariana Islands, again, it's going to be opening on August the 25th. Any
other one that's going to just be open partially?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. The Virgin Islands. So these are offshore. These are not in mainland, though.
But Wyoming.
It's mainland.
Yeah.
I wonder if a month already. Oh, man.
I wonder if Lynn Cheney knows about that. So anyway. Yeah, she's fighting the good fight. So again, the people are still working on the office open closings. So this gets back to our big question for the day. And so let me go back to the PowerPoint slides. Come on, share. The big question is the information about the furloughs. So this was a really great video from it was a news conference with Representative Peter Welch, representatives from Senator Leahy's office, and they were and union members from the government workers. And Vermont has a very large USCIS app or lockbox that they basically review people's applications from the East Coast. So when the whole thing came out about the furlough, people in Vermont were very, very worried about it because it would radically impact the economy of this small state. So Senator Leahy got involved. Bernie Sanders got involved, Representative Peter Welch got involved, and they basically advocated to keep the USCIS from basically doing that furlough, because this interview is really interesting because they were talking about the funding for USCIS and the sources of funding for USCIS, but they said that the USCIS actually has a budget surplus. So they're saying, why are you guys basically forcing this furlough? It doesn't make any sense. So the next day, Senator Patrick Leahy announced on Twitter that the USCIS is postponing the furloughs of 13,000 public servants, including 1,109 in Vermont. So that was a big deal. And I know it's such a small tweet, but this was really a big deal. And we need to still tell Congress and tell the White House that we want USCIS to be fully funded. And here's an example of a campaign to fully fund it. This is change.org, and they ask people to go and sign petitions online to basically pursue pursue full funding for USCIS.
Well, it's good news that it's going to be delayed. That's for sure.
Yeah. So that's it for
August 3rd. August 3rd is right around the corner. So we are happy.
Yeah. So, do you have it? Whoa, sorry. Do you have anything else that you would like to talk about?
It's a pleasure to be here and wishing everybody good luck for the next week.
Okay. So talk to you later.
We will report on the training that's going to be happening next week. So we'll have something to report next week.
Okay, and I have I also have really great news. San Francisco is winning 3-1 over Los Angeles. So
we better
go Giants!
Sign up.
Anyway, talk to you later and have a really great week. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.